Hey, welcome to the DERRY episode 7, man. Breakdown. This was a good one, man. It was a good one. Let me know y'all watched it, y'all. Let me know comment below. But this right here was a good one.
Oh my god, I just finished this week's insane episode of Welcome to Derry, and I have only one thing to say to the writers.
You can't keep getting away with it!
Pour a freedom coat for our boy Rich. I'm in a glass case of emotion here in what was arguably the most brutally emotional episode yet. From our first look at Pennywise's origin, the insane Black Spot massacre, and General Shaw's true plans revealed. I'm just over here like,
my heart can't take it anymore, I just can't take it.
So join me as we take a deep dive into Derry, and make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a balloon in the comments. I write, edit, and produce these videos all by myself, so every little bit helps. We have waited years to finally get a Pennywise origin story.
Yeah, we finally got an origin story, like what really happened.
And episode 7 delivers while still leaving room to explore more of Pennywise in the future.
Yeah, that's true. We still got it, yeah.
We're back in 1908 at Santini's Traveling Carnival, the same carnival we saw a young Francis Shaw back in episode 3. We'll see some familiar faces like this carnival barker and even director Andy Muschietti working the musical box. Although not the same kind of music box is shown just before Beverly meets Pennywise in the Derry sewers. It's here we get our first introduction to the human form of Pennywise the Dancing Clown. His real name is Robert Bob.
Yeah, great.
And we'll see those initials on his handkerchief embroidered in his iconic Pennywise red. His stage show is rather tragic for a clown that's supposed to bring joy to children. In fact, the whole thing is an homage to his dead wife, who he once performed alongside with.
Yeah.
She was a clown named Periwinkle, a name her daughter will soon take, and we'll see a little glimpse of what she looked like in the background.
Oh, yeah.
The show never tells us how she died, or how Pennywise had this fall from grace, going from selling out shows at the circus to little performances in backwater towns as part of a traveling carnival. Pennywise tells us his dream is to one day make it back to the big top, and it's important to note the distinction between a carnival and a circus. A circus is considered more prestigious. There, the focus
the big, everything
is more on performances based on skill, where audience members sit under a big top watching trapeze artists, aerialists, and even clowns. The carnival is the opposite. The audience walks around a midway, engaging in games of chance, taking in freak shows, and riding dubiously held together attractions. I got the feeling that Pennywise thinks working at a carnival is a bit beneath him, hence him wanting to make it back to the big leagues. I like to think that this carnival is a yearly thing that visits Derry, as the beginning of It Chapter 2 features a 2016 version. But back to the tragedy of Pennywise. I think that after the death of his wife, he spiraled into alcoholism. The guy can't even take a moment after the show without having a drink. This probably led to him being fired and having to take a carnival job to pay for him and his daughter. Speaking of which, his daughter is Ingrid Kirsch, the Juniper Hill maid we saw in 1935, 1962, and potentially even 2016. We'll talk a bit later about the fate of Ingrid, but if she were alive in 2016, that would make her a staggering 116 years old. Young Ingrid helps her dad out with various sound effects, but at this point, she isn't officially a part of the show. Her mother's dress is in the style of a Perot clown, a contrast to Pennywise's august clown. Perot costumes were strictly black and white with loose-fitting pajama clothes, while August were often colorful and noisy. This is a great contrast for Pennywise and his wife's act. It should also be noted that a Perot clown often played the tragic victim, making the fact it mimics Pennywise and Ingrid's real life all the more tragic. The Perot clown also has these black C-shaped crescent moons. In pantomime history, the Perot is obsessed with the mood, and that's certainly an homage to that. For his curtain call, Pennywise does the same dance we'll see him perform for young Beverly in It Chapter 1. This is followed by a downpour of red balloons commonly associated with his character. It makes me wonder if Francis's flashback takes place on the same day Pennywise is killed. We learn that when Ingrid presents her clown outfit to her dad, it's a surprise, not something she does every day. So I like to think this is shortly after she's already surprised her dad. A bunch of kids storm the stage and grab his wig, another little nod that the carnival is a bit more unruly and a step below the circus. In the background, we'll catch a glimpse of a small child watching
Yeah, I'm
performance
saying
from
just
a
watching.
barn.
Yeah.
He's credited as Urchin Boy. Galoo has often used different methods to lure his victim.
And that's what he did, though. He lured him.
And for Pennywise, he takes the form
It's fucked up, though.
of this boy.
Yeah.
We know that Pennywise loves to get into the minds of his victims, and I can't help but think this boy is a manifestation of what he was like as a child. Both he and the street kid lost their parents, and we can assume Pennywise came from a poor family and went on to join the circus. Pennywise is kind of taken aback when the child holds his hand, but something compels him to venture out into the forest to search for his parents. Even though he initially told the boy to scram, he'll help him because deep down he knows this kid was just like him as a child, and a lone boy who's lost his parents. Periwinkle's clown reveal makes her papa very proud. She even has this horn we saw her holding in episode 3, and which the adult version will bring with her to the black spot. August clowns often used brass instruments like trumpets because they were loud, abrasive, and could be funny when played badly or blown into someone's ear. You'll notice he calls her Pumpkin here, the same thing he calls her in the 1935 flashback. He has big plans for them to star in the first father-daughter clown act, and it's kind of chilling when he says his new act will be different and something no one has seen before, foreshadowing his next act as the clown entity that will haunt Derry. We don't actually know what happened to Pennywise after venturing into the forest. All we have is this bloody handkerchief and the carnival barker's theory that Pennywise was eaten by wolves. I hope this is something that's explored more in later seasons of the show. Producers have stated season 3 will be set in 1908, which will climax with the Kitchener Ironworks explosion. So it's very possible we'll see more of Bob Gray and what really happened to him. But what about Ingrid? With her father gone, where did she go? All we know is that she ended up settling in Derry, feeling, quote, drawn to it. She'd go on to work at Juniper Hill until that fateful evening in 1935, where she hears of Pennywise's return. This is another thing the show doesn't tell us. What did Ingrid and Pennywise discuss that night in the Juniper Hill boiler room? How complicit was Ingrid in helping him gather children? And was she in any way involved in the 1935 event known as the Bradley Gang Massacre? All we really know was there was some expectation that if she helped him, he would come back for her. And that's exactly what she did. Ingrid was pivotal in orchestrating the Black Spot Massacre. She was the one who kept Hank busy the night Phil, Theo, and Susie died, the event that would see Hank Rogan arrested and eventually hide out at the Black Spot. And she was the one who tipped off the mob where Hank Rogan was. Last episode, we saw Ingrid prepare for this big event. She loves to put on her makeup and outfit as a reminder of her father's love for her. Her husband, however, isn't so keen on the idea. This is Stan Kirsch, town butcher, white supremacist, and occasional wife beater. A few episodes ago, I theorized he liked to slap Ingrid around, and now it's confirmed, telling her that if she doesn't wipe that ridiculous crap off her face, she's gonna be black and blue.
That's crazy though, man. That's fucked up.
This is who she really is. This is something she'd had to hide from the world for 27 years. At the end of the day, she's daddy's little girl. That's when Pennywise is revealed, who uses a comically large butcher knife to kill the butcher.
Kids call me Stanley Cleaver.
While Ingrid is clearly shaken up by the gruesome death, she keeps her composure. This is the thing she's waited for so long. Her father is really bad. He has her bow and play the trumpet just like she did as a child. The two embrace, and it almost felt as though he was ready to take a big chunk out of her. He tells her that she did good, but now it's time for him to go to sleep. This is the end of the augury, or end of the 1962 cycle, where Galoo will go back to rest, only to reappear in 1989, where he'll have his encounter with the Losers Club. But Ingrid's waited too long for this moment. She grabs his arm and tells him not to abandon her. This is when he reveals he's not her father at all, although if we believe him, he states her father still lives inside him. He opens his mouth to reveal the deadlights. This is something we saw him do to Beverly Marsh in Chapter 1. You'll see these 3 floating balls, the same ones that escaped the celestial object which crash-landed on Earth millennia ago. This is Galoo's true form. When someone is affected by the deadlights, they immediately go into a catatonic state in which one's consciousness is ripped away from the body. This is shown visually by the eyes glazing over into a milky gray and their body levitating from the ground. Those affected by the deadlights are put in a state of eternal terror, their minds locked in a nightmare. Will refers to this as salting the meat, or getting them prepared just right before they can be devoured by Galoo. Most who experience the deadlights are instantly killed because the human brain cannot comprehend its true eldritch form. However, Beverly in 1988 survived this experience. In the movie, it gave her prophetic visions, like how she saw the losers returning to Derry as adults. Does this mean that characters like Ingrid or Will experience something similar? After the fire at the Black Spot, we'll see Ingrid carted away. Pennywise didn't end up taking her. Perhaps he was too full and didn't need to feed on her, or maybe he knew she was bad meat. She wasn't afraid of him, at least not to the extent of the others. But what will end up happening to her? Is her brain completely fried? I think it would be pretty ironic if she ended up at Juniper Hill as a patient. The Hanlons have made their way back to their home in Derry, believing it to be safe now that Galoo has gone to sleep. Their fridge contains Fizzla Cola, which we found in the Derry grocery store, and is a nod to Nozzla Cola in the Dark Tower. There's also some Siegel's Pickles, a rival pickle company different than the one Lily's dad worked at. You might also see a moving box, as Charlotte made it clear that tomorrow she's getting Will out of Derry. Pennywise, however, has different plans, as he'll emerge from his slumber to put Will under the deadlights. We know he'll survive this ordeal, as he'll grow up to eventually have Mike as his son, but you better believe that Leroy will stop at nothing to get his son back. We also haven't really seen Leroy's inability to feel fear tested, so I'm excited for that as he gets closer to a one-on-one confrontation with Galoo. Last episode saw a mob of white men led by former Derry Chief of Police descend upon the Black Spot, a bar for African-American servicemen of the nearby Derry Air Force Base.
That's fucked up.
Ingrid tipped them off.
That's fucked up, though. They
That
burning there.
fugitive Hank Rogan, who escaped a Shawshank prison bus, is staying there. We've seen the town and how it's become increasingly aggressive over the past few weeks, even brandishing weapons out in the open. This is how Galoo's hold over the town manifests. Even the indigenous elder talks about how the citizens have become more agitated, noting that this year's augury has yet to take place. The augury is a huge event that signals the end of the feed. In my last breakdown, I noted how 4 members of this mob have personal reasons for wanting to find Hank Rogan. Al Malkin, Phil and Susie's father, believes Hank responsible for his children's death. He even tried to murder him in public and was somehow set free. It just goes to show you how deep the corruption is in this town and how everyone kind of turns a blind eye. Corruption might be what got Police Chief Bowers axed, as he tells us the powers that be lost faith in his ability to, quote, serve and protect. Then there's Stan Kirsch, whose wife's been sleeping with Hank. Rounding out that group is a town council member we saw from episode 2, who's just a straight-up racist. Their masks also correlate to forms Pennywise took in the books. Frankenstein's monster was used to terrorize the bullies in the sewers, the vampire when Ben Hanscom was in the Derry library, and the clown is pretty self-explanatory. They demand Hank Rogan be brought out, which almost certainly means he'll be lynched. The airmen aren't willing to give Hank up, even when he reveals himself to the crowd. It results in a sort of standstill, with the mob leaving only to chain the place up and light it on fire.
Light on fire. I kind of figured out, like, they're going to do it right now. They're going to wait till later on.
I found it odd that they let one of the white girls out, but nothing is said of the children, Rich, Marge, Ronnie, or Will. The whole Black Spot sequence is absolutely brutal. Even if you somehow made it out through the windows, you'd be mercilessly shot. We mainly follow this massacre from 2 perspectives, Dick Halloran and Rich and Marge. Dick's been struggling with seeing the dead ever since Galoo opened his box of trauma in episode 5. Even while fighting the flames, he can't escape the dead, coming across a dead Union soldier. He told Leroy 2 interesting things about them. They almost always go back to where they died, and they know things those who are alive should never know. This is where Seski comes into play, the tribal warrior who died at the hands of Galoo in episode 4. Although he sees her during the fire, it's not until after that she leads him to the burial site where she was buried alongside one of these pillars. The pillars are made from celestial fragments that once held Galoo in its journey across space. Up until this point, it seemed as though General Shaw wanted these pillars in order to trap Galoo and weaponize him against the Russians. After all, when he first met Leroy, he stressed how important it was to defeat the Russians as they were starting to arm Cuba. But Shaw doesn't intend on using these pillars at all. He wants them destroyed.
Yeah, he want to burn them, which that's not good though.
Galoo on America. Leroy was never told this. In fact, he was lied to.
Yeah,
Told that the pillar was to be studied, not destroyed. General Shaw believes that the real threat to America doesn't come from abroad, but from within. The amount of political upheaval from women's rights, race rights, and various protesters has the nation on the brink of civil war. Thus, something drastic has to be done. The greatest way to get people in line is through fear. Shaw even says that a little collateral damage, such as missing kids and murder, is acceptable for the overall long-term stability of the nation. Leroy threatens to contact the Department of Defense, suggesting Shaw has gone rogue, but he's taken at gunpoint and ordered back to his quarters, where he's not allowed to leave the base. As the pillar is melted, we see Pennywise awaken from his slumber.
Yeah.
He can probably sense that this has happened, prompting him to return to Derry in next week's finale. Stick around later in the video for my trailer sleuthing section, where I'll go over how next episode will play out. It's important to note that Dick was going to leave this fire by himself. He remembered that the broken icebox weakened the floorboards by the fridge and uses this to escape. He's always been the type of guy to put himself before others, but in an act of selflessness, he calls out to the ghost of Seski. Notice how her eyes start off in that milky haze. Russo had the same thing after venturing out from the sewers. Did Dick calling out to her snap her out of it? And if so, could he do the same for Will? Talking to the dead is something Dick did not want to do. He told Leroy it's best just to leave the dead alone because once you start talking, their voices get inside your head. We'll see this in the aftermath of the massacre as his dead, burned army buddies hound him. You can hear them make out the words, "You gotta make it right." It's possible the dead want his help in getting justice. Maybe it's the only way he can get them out of his head. And can Dick use his grandmother's lockbox technique to push away the dead? If his appearance in The Shining is any indication, yes, he'll succeed. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out in the final episode.
Yeah.
Marge and Rich, however, get stuck behind when a beam falls between them and the exit. We've watched these two develop a relationship over the last few episodes, with their adventures last week being one of the highlights of the season. This made it even more gut-wrenching when Rich sacrifices himself by putting himself on top of this box to protect Marge from the smoke and flames. He harkens back to their talk of the knight and pirate, saying it's the duty of the knight to protect the fair maiden. Since day one, he's had a crush on her, recalling a story how he wondered who she was the first day he saw her. He'll also mention the day a Robbie Muller let loose guinea pigs in the hallway. As Sally Muller was a classmate of the Losers Club, and a man named William Muller is mentioned as part owner of the SS and WM rail line in Derry, so he may be related. It's a really heartbreaking scene where Rich eventually succumbs to the fire. I think he's gone for good, but as Ingrid said last episode, nothing in Derry is ever really dead, so it'll be interesting if Dick will encounter Ghost Rich. I want to briefly mention the look on Al Malkin's face after Bowers tells him there's no one getting out of there alive. I kinda got the feeling he's showing some regret here. He's not all gung-ho about what he just did. Perhaps with Galoo's appetite finally satiated, the town will come back to its senses, and maybe this is what's happening with Al. We'll also see this woman, credited as Lone Lady Black Spot Survivor, let out this laugh. Something about a clown bringing on this laughter after such a traumatic event is particularly eerie. The last moment Marge gets with Rich is holding his lifeless hand. This time it's not soft like when she held it in the sewer, rather dirty and charred. In the end, we find out 23 souls died at the Black Spot, which doesn't include the 17 missing children as part of Galoo's 1962 feed. The book puts the death count much higher at 60. Hank's escape from the Black Spot puts him in a unique position. Charlotte ends up taking his clothes and leaves them in the remains of the blaze, leading authorities to believe he perished in the fire. With Rose's help, Charlotte hopes to send Hank and Ronnie over the border to Montreal. A news report reveals just how corrupt Derry is. The entire blaze is framed as an electrical fire due to negligence on the part of the Black Airmen, and Stan Kirsch is hailed as a hero who died trying to treat the wounded. We'll see Chief Bowers' name being taken off his office door, and if you freeze frame here, you'll see a bunch of names on the chalkboard. These are mostly crew members from the show who work in set design. The tribe does a sort of debrief on this year's cycle. They all feel pretty helpless, but take solace in the fact that their sacred duty of confining Galoo saves more lives in the grand scheme of things. Except for this guy who's like, see you shitasses in 27 years. This being a sort of council that meets every 27 years suggests we might see them in future seasons of the show. Lily sits in a dark room, kinda creepy. This girl was last seen fleeing Ingrid Kirsch's house after stabbing her with a dagger. We still really don't know how this dagger will come into play in the final episode. Rose told Shaw that only Taniel knows how to really use it, so he might be key in the events to come. But if you want to know what's in store for the finale, join me as we head into the trailer sleuthing section. Take a look at this ice cream truck speeding through the fog of Derry. This is actually a truck we've seen in the background of past episodes. We can't make out everyone in here, but it looks as though Charlotte, Rose, Will, Lily, and a few others are in here. So we can confirm Will gets out of that deadlight trance.
Yeah.
It's kind of ironic they're making their escape from Derry in a Derry truck. But what is this fog? Could it be something like in Stephen King's The Mist? I imagine it has something to do with the pillar being destroyed. After all, it was General Shaw who said that fear is like a fog. By destroying the pillar, maybe it unleashed something. It could also be Pennywise controlling this fog, but we've never seen him do anything as massive as this. He'll definitely use the fog to his advantage, as we'll see his infamous red balloon and a creepy woman here. In this shot, Ronnie, Lily, and Marge run through the fog with Ronnie holding on to the dagger. The kids floating above them, I think, are taken from school. In this shot, we'll see the patty cakes fall under Galoo's spell and begin to float. Other students clamor for the door, so something big happens at school, which results in missing persons posters plastered all over the standpipe. The dead continue to haunt Dick, as we'll see several dead in the trailers. He'll hold someone at gunpoint saying, "You got my mind all f***ed up." I'm gonna guess this is Leroy, who will want his help in getting Will. Here's Pennywise with half of his face covered in blood, the same way we saw him when he took over Will.
Yep.
He's hunting down either Marge or Lily here, as it looks as though they've gotten separated. In this shot, we'll see Marge being pulled into the fog by something. Charlotte here attacking someone. It's most likely Leroy, as it appears to be an officer's uniform. This is a carnival carriage, which might unlock some mystery about Pennywise and his origin. We'll see a pool of blood falling over the stairs. I like the addition of a star, as Galoo came from a falling star. I can't show the corpse here as it's too graphic, but there's a guy dead in the middle of the school gym. This is likely the aftermath when Pennywise takes the children. It's Marge and Lily who stumble upon it. This particular image has sparked a lot of debate online. Some are saying this is adult Lily Bainbridge at Juniper Hill. Some have speculated that the man and woman to the side are her husband, Alvin Marsh, and daughter, Beverly, from the It movies. In the films, it's implied Beverly's mother struggled with mental illness, and we know Lily has a lot of trauma to unpack. Plus, the final episode is called Winter Fire, a callback to the poem Ben Hanscom wrote for Beverly in It Chapter 1. While Beverly's mom's name was Elfrida, that's something that could be easily worked around. In the behind-the-scenes video, we get this shot, which looks to be more dead coming to visit Dick. Dick finds himself in the fog as well, not looking like he's having the best time. Leroy and Taniel are there too. Everything seems to be building towards some big event in the fog. A record player here as someone is restrained at Juniper Hill. Is it Ingrid, adult Lily, or someone else entirely? Marge holding onto the dagger as it glows. Galoo must be somewhere nearby, but hopefully with the dagger on them, they won't be harmed. We have just one more week until the finale, and now I turn it over to you.
That was
what do
good.
you think will happen next? Leave your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like.
It was good, though, man. Good episode, man. Let me know what y'all think, man. Let me know down below.